Good morning, team. I'm Coach Charlie, and today we're going to talk about teamwork. Our opponent may have a winning record. They may be bigger and stronger and faster than us. They may have the home field advantage. They may have nicer uniforms. They may have a more mythic tradition. But we have a tradition of reinterpreting myths. You have heard of the Tar Heels standing their ground or the Volunteers of Tennessee ready to fight. There are teams whose names suggest a fierce togetherness, like Wolfpack, Trojans, Spartans, Thundering Herd. We UUs are the wandering herd. The wandering herd of cats. But we need to pull together as a team. There is no I in team. So forget your individual egos and win one for our side. Well, I suppose there's room for individuality, but we need to be aligned.
I think we're collective, and that has an I in it.
Well,
Actually, we're a spiritual society that has two eyes.
Organization that has three eyes.
Well, Unitarian Universalism has 4 eyes. There are plenty of eyes on this team.
excuse me? Yes? Are you sure? Do we? Okay. Well, that was the referee. For the 11th week in a row, we have to forfeit the game for not getting to the field on time. I'll see you at the potluck. What is it about Unitarian Universalists? What makes it so hard to be inclusive and productive? Sometimes it seems like we debate for the sake of debating. That is bad, but it's even worse when we yell at each other, and worse still when we yell insults. Must freedom of expression include rudeness? Is it possible to be passionate and polite at the same time? Anger is an alarm bell. It's a call to action. We yell when something's on fire. But firefighters turn off the alarm when they get to the fire. The clanging has served its purpose. Sometimes our anger is like car alarms. 20 years ago, I paid attention to them. When was the last time you heard a car alarm and thought, oh my, somebody's car is being stolen? At some point, people stop listening. Sometimes our anger is counterproductive. When I was a social work student, I worked in community mental health, and a client called me from the hospital and says, you have to get me out of here. No matter how much I scream at them, they won't believe I'm sane. And any of us who have children, say, it seems, why do I have to keep on yelling and you never hear me? And perhaps it is the yelling that is preventing the listening. Teamwork in popular culture seems to involve a lot of yelling. Watching coaches, they always seem to be yelling. My stereotypical acting displays that. The way we seem to get things done is to yell at each other. But have you ever noticed that both the winning and the losing coaches yell? So yelling mustn't have anything really to do with winning or losing. What happens when we yell? There are 3 possibilities. A person wakes up and performs. A person freezes and is unable to perform, or the person gets angry at you and performs against you. 2 out of the 3 possibilities are bad. Odds are yelling won't work. There was a Big Ten coach, Woody Hayes. I can't believe I'm quoting him in a sermon. I beg forgiveness. Who used to say, people ask, why don't you pass? And he goes, well, when you pass, 2 out of the 3 things that happen are bad. An interception or an incomplete. And that's some ways how anger is. 2 out of the 3 possibilities of yelling at somebody is bad. Odds are it won't work. But effectiveness is not the only point of yelling, because internally it makes us feel good. It makes us feel powerful. At least I did something. I just didn't sit there in silence and take it. It may not have worked, but at least I yelled. There's something self-satisfying about being loud. Next time you're in a car, and the car next to you at the light is thumping some bass line, just look over at the person in that car and ask this question. Look at that person and look at yourself and ask, who in this society has more power? Who in this society actually has more real power, me or the person driving that loud car? The only power that this young person, most likely time is young, in another car has is 400-watt speakers. They don't have political power, they don't have much economic power, but that thump at the stop and says, I will not be ignored. And you can hear, and you can see the nodding their head, because that thump, it says, I'm here, pay attention. And that might be the only power they have. And so there's that power of yelling that feels so good internally, even though most of us, when we get away from, when the light turns green, we try to avoid that car because we wonder what's going on there. But sometimes the thump of anger is a self-righteousness that soothes. It's the balm that makes us feel good when we feel powerless. Our yelling can be a wall of sound that pushes people away and at the same time gives us a feeling of safety within ourselves. It's a defense mechanism that protects the self, but it also prevents the self from growing. It prevents us from listening and learning from others. As we expand the walls of our defenses, the self that's being protected shrinks smaller and smaller. This summer, I took a class on being a totally responsible person from the Center of Purposeful Living. And the goal of the program is for each person to be totally responsible for their attitude and their behavior. There is an I in team, and the I you need to be concerned about is yourself and how you're acting in that team. We can't always worry or control how others misbehave. We have to make a personal commitment within ourselves to excellence. If someone comes at me with anger, I do not have to respond with anger. I can respond to the issue at hand. Sometimes people come to me with anger, and I say, I'm not going to listen to what you say. And then I have to go, oh, after the meeting, they actually were right. But I didn't listen. And so you say, let's get to the issue at hand, not necessarily how they brought it to you. People don't always bring you gifts wrapped up in the best of packages. Sometimes I've found very practical things wrapped in garbage. because people come to you with garbage. And so even that, you have to say, wait a minute, what's going on here? I have to change, rather than my initial response to push back when being pushed, to say, let that pass through so I can hear. And respond in the way I want to respond, not along the social text of what one is supposed to do. Some of us use an alarm to wake up in the morning. And imagine if we let that alarm keep on ringing while we shower, brush our teeth, make our coffee, read our paper. That alarm, we just keep it ringing all morning as we're getting ready for work. That'd be ridiculous. But that's what we do with our anger. It awakens us to the need to do something. I mean, I could list lots of things that we could get angry about this morning. Darfur, the war, the resegregation of schools, the, football. But what anger does, it awakens us. But if we don't turn it off and we try to do good with that anger in our brains, that we will keep being ineffective. Because we might have good solutions, but we are so dedicated to the cause that we accost people and they can't hear us because of our anger. Our anger wakes us up. We turn off the alarm and we get about to work. And we are more effective when we are able to work in a group. But group work requires a lot more effort. It's a lot more fun to go out to the street corner and just yell that things are wrong. Sanford Danziger and Thomas White offer the 10 commitments of effective group work. And I'll read them and offer some of my comment on them. Number 1, do not gossip about another group member. Gossip creates an unseen poison that hurts us and those about whom we gossip. Wow, that's a difficult one for a religious organization. Any religious organization. This one, gossip seems to be the secret sacrament of every sect. The most common invocation is, did you hear about? Number 2, never criticize another group member aloud or even silently to oneself. Well, this commitment's impossible to uphold just on the face of it. But the moment we realize we are criticizing a person, it reminds us to stop. We can criticize an idea, but we always must detach it from the person. Our attacks should never be personal. And we should also be careful not to personally attach ourselves to our own ideas, as good as they may be. This allows our ideas to be critiqued without us feeling personally attacked. For example, I like the idea of pacifism. I should be able to talk to a person who disagrees with this idea. We can talk about the merits of opposing ideas. There is no need for me to call her a bloodthirsty warmonger. And there is no need for her to call me a cheese-eating surrender monkey. Never criticize the person. Work in the areas of ideas. Never be late for any, this is number 3, never be late for any scheduled meeting. To do so is a subtle form of disrespect for one's fellow workers. And 4, never miss a planned meeting unless it is impossible to attend, even if personal sacrifices have to be made. Making personal sacrifices without letting anybody know of the sacrifice, and without eventually not thinking of it as a sacrifice, is a way of building commitment and purpose and manifesting character. We should always respect each other's time. This may mean calling meetings only when needed, and then being on time for those meetings, because time is life. When we waste somebody's time, we waste a part of their life. When we respect people's time, we are telling them that their life is precious. Number 5, never engage in a heated argument with a fellow group member. In times of disagreement, use open, non-critical discussion and release attachment to the end result or direction. A sentence that I say to myself, and sometimes I've said it in meetings, that I find helpful to achieve a non-critical discussion and releasing attachment to the end result or direction is this: to achieve a goal, let us try something, then evaluate. This is an open-ended way to proceed. If I lose the vote, I can take some comfort that this decision will be evaluated. And if I win the vote, I must hold myself accountable to, we said we were going to do this, now we actually need to do it. Not all good ideas work. If something I do not agree with worked, I should be happy even if it wasn't my idea. And if my idea does not achieve the goal I want, then I should be happy to try another idea. Every decision is provisional. We cannot predict every possibility. And sometimes we do not make decisions because we cannot overcome all the objections. We want the assurance of certainty before moving forward. But the desire for such assurance, such certainty, is an attitude that results in stagnation. It results in gridlock. There's always someone who's able to object to the new idea. Martin Luther, the religious reformer, is famous for saying, "Be a sinner and sin boldly, but believe and rejoice in Christ even more boldly, for he is victorious over sin." Our Universalist heritage takes that even further. Let us act boldly, but believe and rejoice in the future even more boldly, for in the future we can be victorious over any mistake we make. We often heighten the stakes of every decision. I've seen debates on potlucks go for minutes. I left the meeting while they were still debating that one. The stakes aren't always that high. The stakes that are important, that we often forget, are that there are 5, 6, 10, 200 people gathered in a room. Those people gathered in the room have a relationship that needs to be built and be strong enough regardless of decisions. Decisions come and go. Elections turn back and forth. But the relationship with one another, which is often never even on the agenda, is the thing that makes people want to be in a church, in a fellowship, in a society, in a group. It's that sense of the people who have gathered to struggle with issues and make decisions. They have to have a level of trust in each other, even when you lose the vote. And then you have to hold each other accountable, even if you win the vote. Number 6, keep a positive attitude towards the work and towards each group member participating in the work. Number 7, look for and find positive qualities about each group member, then use a thought to energize those positive qualities. Such discovery and recognition may or may not be verbalized, but thinking about them positively helps us create an environment that supports and creates and increases those qualities in them. These commitments reflect an important tool in what White and Danziger call reversing the flow. When we are feeling attacked or victimized, it's common for us to go with the flow and return that anger. But if we think of 3 positive things about the person while they are arguing with us, it's hard to keep that anger going. We have the power to change the situation for the good. When people come at us with anger and we return anger for anger, we have just given them control of the context of the situation. But when we hold steadfast to the good, we can exert control over the situation. Number 8, make every effort to keep the larger picture and purpose of the work in mind, even when mentally or emotionally focused on specific issues. The larger purpose can help guide the process and interaction. 9, daily use the power of thought and visualization to see the larger purpose being unfolded. And 10, make strong personal commitment to respect, honor, and uphold the work and its purpose. The purpose. Each time we come here, we need to ask ourselves, why bother? The New York Times is incredibly large and takes a lot of time to read on Sunday morning. Why bother? What is the purpose? There's a reason. And the reason is in all the faces I see here, all the people. The mission statement of this fellowship says that we are an inclusive, supportive community of religious freedom, evolving wisdom, and ethical action. It's written on the back of your order of service. When we are locked in a debate, we can reverse the flow of dissension by thinking about being an inclusive, supportive community. When we think about religious freedom, it helps us to listen to viewpoints that are different from ours. By listening, it helps our wisdom and knowledge evolve. Ethical action is a goal for us at every moment of every day. For a while, we had these signs representing these sayings up in our foyer. And ethical action was set as you were going out the door, in the sense that you learn stuff here and you go use it in society. But ethical action is every moment of our lives. Every moment being the best person that we can be. And having the discipline to not let jerks sway us from our high purpose. Because when that jerk comes to you, know that that jerk has a high purpose too. They may not be displaying it at the current time. And you might know them from different contexts. And if you can't think of anything nice about them, imagine it, because there should be something there. That's when you have to do the biggest faith statement in Unitarian Universalists, that inherent worth and dignity of every person. We find plenty of examples to the contrary, but we have to believe that somehow there's something there worth listening to. Ethical action is the way we live out our purpose. It is in our internal thoughts, our personal interactions. It is in our political actions. Ethical action is how we live, work, and play. If we are connected to our purpose, we will play well together. By respecting ourselves and each other, we create an inclusive and supportive community. Go team.
Our wonderful